Please join me in welcoming Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Good evening. Thanks for that warm welcome. Normally you save that for the end so that I earn it, okay? I just want to earn that from you. The sun came out today. I thought that was kind of interesting. In fact, I might tweet that right now, if I may. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay? So I have a tweet ready to go there. Let's see. In Seattle now, the sun came out today and people reacted joyously. Must be a rare event. Okay. 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 So we'll check back in on that later, why don't we? And let's get back to... Am I there? Now, what I'm really going to do, this is really a talk on the musings of an astrophysicist. That's really what's going on here. This lecture might not even be coherent, because I'm just spilling out perspectives on things, just scattering them into the wind for you to receive, okay? So there's a little bit of everything tonight. I hope you don't mind. Now, often talks like this are just sort of loosely veiled commercials for some book somebody's going to sell. But this was no exception to that. No, actually, no, I don't like giving book talks because you can just read the book. If I'm there in person, I might as well talk about something you can't get from a book. So some of what I'll be talking about is in books, but the collection of it all together, you're not getting anywhere except here and now. So let's just start. So we're going to do some science up front, but then we're going to take you to new places, all right? In the search for life, what we're doing is we're trying to find the water. And we know there's water on Earth, and there's life everywhere on Earth where there's water. There's life, even the Dead Sea. The fact that it's called the Dead Sea is an example of what you say when you don't have a microscope. Okay, so this is just how that was. Mars, there are microbes doing just fine in the Dead Sea. Mars, Europa, one of the moons of Jupiter, exoplanets. So our search for life is driven by the search for water. Europa is one of the moons of Jupiter where we're pretty sure there's an ocean, a liquid ocean of water beneath a frozen surface. So one day I want to go ice fishing on Europa, cut a hole, check out, see what swims up to the camera lens. You know what I like about Europa? Suppose we do find life. Then what do you call it? Call it Europeans, you see? What else would you call it? Let's go to Mars. We've seen Mars before. There's a nice shot of Mars. Can people hear me up on the top? Up in the cheap seats up there? You guys okay? You're all up there? Okay. Mars. Mars is intriguing because it rotates once in about 24 hours. It's tipped on its axis, so it has seasons. It's got polar ice caps. It gets everybody excited, especially this fellow, looking quite tweedy there. Percival Lowell, a wealthy New Englander, who was wealthy enough to just sort of build his own observatory, and he called it the Lowell Observatory, yeah. Put it in Arizona, and he was really liked Mars, and he was pretty sure life was thriving on Mars. So he wrote several books. This was his first. And you look in these books, and you find diagrams like this. And he called these canals, which was a mistranslation of canales in Italian, which meant channels. but he was wealthy, but he didn't know Italian. And so he thought the people who thought they saw channels, he thought they meant canals, and if it's a canal, it means it's artificially made. So this is what he saw when he looked through his telescope that he made and put in his observatory. Now, we know that none of these canals are there, and there aren't these cities. He was imagining life forms were going extinct, and they would channel water from the poles into the cities, and it was catching them right at the end of their civilization. So this is not the first crazy thing he did. But anyway, in modern times, we actually go there. Yeah, so there we've got one of the rovers. We went there before the rovers. You might know that. We went there back in the 70s. Two Viking, they were called Vikings, one landed, one orbited. And the orbiter took this photo. That's a good one. Ooh, oh, ooh, ooh. Yeah, that's better music here. The face on Mars. Dun, 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 dun. So everybody got excited. Well, sorry, not everybody. Those people who were sure that life on Mars had a simian face, okay? I mean, think about it. Most life on Earth does not have a simian face. Most life on Earth doesn't have a face, all right? So life with which we have DNA in common. All life on Earth has DNA in common. Now you're going to go to another planet and it has a face? The only things on Earth that have faces are like vertebrates have faces. That's a vertebrate face. So you want to say that there are vertebrates on Mars and they're simian in their biology. Well, there's only one thing that looks like a face, no matter the camera angle. And what is that? A face, yes. So we go back at another time, and this is what it is at another time with higher resolution. It looks less like a face. You can kind of see how it might have been. Now, all the Mars fanatics said, oh, the Martians figured out we were looking at them, and they quickly covered up the monument. Then you go back again, and it's like even less like a face. So the Martians have continued to cover this up, apparently. So more on that later. But in fact, I do have the first evidence from the rovers. This photo, in fact, has been kept from the public till I have special connections to NASA, as you heard in the introduction. So this one was the first image taken by the rovers, and it's been suppressed by NASA ever since. Right. So I thought I'd share it with you guys because, like, you know, you're my people tonight here. By the way, if you're looking on Mars for faces, why not look for other things that are familiar? You know, you only see that as a face because we have a face. And familiar things are what you pick out, even if they're not really there, right? When you look up in the clouds, you don't say, oh, I see a lobster. No. Has anyone ever said they see a lobster? No, you say, I see Abe Lincoln or George Washington. You're looking at sort of familiar iconography of our culture. And so let's find some more familiar iconography in the Martian terrain. There's the Valentine crater. There you go. We got one of those. How about the smiley face crater, right? So if you look hard enough, you can find stuff and call it whatever you want. So, but Mars, one thing is certain. It's long suspected, but recently confirmed, that water, while not on the Martian surface, is beneath the surface and not very far beneath. This is a crater about the size of this stage that was freshly left in the photo on the left side of the image here. And if there's water beneath the surface and an impactor comes and an asteroid hits and it makes a crater, that crater is, like I said, about the size of this stage, it will lay bare any water that happened to be beneath the surface. That water would melt on impact and then instantly freeze, and then there you get it, right there. You see the frozen sort of surface area there. Now you might say, well, suppose that's just chalk or some white rock. Maybe it's not really water. Well, you come back a few weeks later and it's basically evaporated. The official word for that would be to sublime, if you're into accurate chemistry vernacular. And so the point here is the evidence that water is beneath the surface remains manifest in many ways.